Welcome, everybody, to another edition of News and Views. My name is Elmira. I am your host. We do have a special guest today. His name is Derek Moss. I call him a master genealogist. He may say different, but this is all about finding your roots because, on this channel, we delve into history, we talk music, we talk relationships, we talk all kinds of stuff. So I wanted to sit down with Derek. First of all, Derek, welcome.
Thank you.
Happy
Thank you.
Sunday to you.
Same to you.
Want to ask you, how did you begin this journey? What got you involved in wanting to research your own family history?
Well, I think what got me started was, being from a pretty small county, I've always heard, you're related to this person, you're related to that person. Then we'll go to various places and this person will be cousin this and cousin that. So, when I was young, around probably 8 or 9, it sparked some interest within me.
So that early? Really?
Oh yes, it started really early. I didn't really get really into it until later on, but it started around that time. Hmm.
It's interesting you say that because I'm thinking of, two other people came to mind when you said
Okay.
that. One of them is Jonathan, you know him, and then
Yes,
another
yes.
one is Michael Jackson. So for
Okay,
some reason,
okay.
those two people, because what I've noticed when something is important to you, is a passion, it
Hmm.
begins to develop at an early age. We saw this
Right,
with
right,
Jonathan. He's
right,
always been preaching. Like,
right,
I
right.
remember, like, literally 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, him wanting to go to church, lead the Sun,
Oh
like, do all
wow.
this
Okay,
stuff. Yeah, I
okay,
do. He used
okay.
to lead he couldn't have been no more than 12 or something, and they would lead stuff at Sunday school.
Oh wow. Okay. So it's kind of
Yeah.
kind of the same way with me and my
Same way
music.
with you. Yeah,
Hmm.
with you
Yeah.
and your music and
Yes.
even with the
Yes.
genealogy.
Right. Right.
So at
Hmm.
that age, what was it that really sparked you? Was it just the interest in knowing how you were related, or was there more?
It was more. I used to stay with my on the weekends. I used to stay with my great. Excuse me. I used to stay with my great grandfather a lot, and just sitting down talking to him. You kind of see on movies, and hear people say, you sit on the porch and you talk to your grandparents, and you talk to the older people. But I actually experienced that. I used to. My grandfather had a porch, and we used to sit on the porch on those hot, long summer days and just used to talk, and I just used to talk to him and listen, and just get a lot of information. It was very, very interesting for me as a child. I used to spend many of my summer days with him.
What was the most fantastic thing he shared?
Well, I would say, in addition to genealogy, the most fascinating thing he shared was probably he was a gardener. He was a farmer pretty much, and so I learned a lot of that as well. And he told me, he shared a lot of stories to me about when he was young and when he was a child. How things were changing. He died in 2000, so that was 26 years ago. But he shared with me a lot of things that had changed over the years, and now, 26 years later, a lot of things have changed since 2000. But, at his age, he was in his upper 80s. He died when he was 94. So, just listening to him tell me about his childhood and how he grew up with a family of 14 siblings.
Mm.
Yes, yes, he had 14 siblings. And, he told me a lot about that. And it was very interesting. Very interesting.
So you're talking about him, and of course he lived a long life
A
and
long
died
life.
in 2000, and
Right,
he
right.
acknowledged the changes over the
Hmm. Hmm.
years.
Hmm. Definitely.
What do you think is something that does not need to change?
Well, I think what does not need to change is children spending time with their grandparents and learning and talking to their grandparents because you learn a lot. I mean, and not necessarily genealogy, but you learn, respect. You learn a lot of different things from your grandparents. And I know a lot of young people now may not want to spend time with their grandparents because they may think it's boring, or they may not be able to spend all day on their cell phones or video games or what have you. But I think, that one-on-one time is very important. Put the cell phones away, put the games away, even put the TV away, and just, talk to them and learn, whether it be about, what they've been through, or any advice that they could give you pertaining to your life as well. And I had that opportunity, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I know you are because you're
Mhm.
benefiting from it still
Yes.
to this day.
To this day, exactly. And
That's
I'm still
why,
taking what they, oh, excuse me, and I'm still taking what I learned from them and applying it to my life today.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. You're applying it, and I can say the same thing for me because
Yes.
at the age of 5, we moved from Norfolk to New Kent to stay
Okay.
with my grandmother, who
Oh, okay.
that's who I was
Okay.
named after, Elmira.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
remember learning how to cook with her. She's the
Hmm.
one who taught me how to make biscuits. I made them
Right.
biscuits,
Right.
same biscuits, just the other day.
Right.
So,
Yes.
it be
Yes.
staying, it stay with you. It's like you
Yes.
never
Yes.
forget those
Hmm.
moments.
That's true. You don't. You don't. And you learn from them, even survival skills. You learn survival skills when things need to be done. You run out of your electricity goes off because of a storm, or something like that, or something happens. They teach you a lot about survival as well.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You're saying
Yeah.
survival. Yeah,
Yes. Hmm.
that is so key because sometimes we can get consumed, like you said, we're in 2026 and beyond, and we can
Right.
get
Right.
consumed with the tablets, the computer, the
Definitely.
Facebook,
Hmm.
all of these things that are at our fingertips, but
Right.
taking it back to the roots is
Right.
really
Right.
what it's all about.
Exactly. Exactly. Hmm. Hmm.
What did you find out, and when was the first time you started putting together this family tree?
Well, if I can remember correctly, I started putting this family tree together around, I want to say around the year, maybe a little before 2000. And I could be wrong with those dates, but I knew I was young,
Mm-hmm.
and I was under 16 because I was not driving. I definitely wasn't driving, so I was under 16. But we had a family reunion in Maryland on the Johnson side. We had a family reunion in Maryland, and my family knew that I was interested in genealogy, and so I rode to Maryland to meet some cousins of mine to help actually with the family tree.
Hmm.
So that's where the reality of it really started, and that's helping with that family reunion and with that family tree. That and me being a child and having that opportunity, that was a big thing to me. That was a big thing looking to me. And come to think of it, it was before that Johnson reunion, we had a Moss family reunion in Yorktown. I believe it was Yorktown. And that's where I actually did the family tree there as well. So that was before then. And I know I may have been 12, maybe
Oh.
around 12 when we had that family reunion. And I could have been younger than that because I can see the picture in my head at me as a child. So I may have been 10. Hmm. I may have been 10. And that's where it really started now that I think about it. And when the Johnson reunion came along around 2000, I had already had a little experience with the Mosses that I had a few years ago that was in Yorktown.
So this really was birth at an early, early age.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. I always tell people it's in my blood. It's
And it
definitely in my
literally
blood. It's
is
not,
in your blood.
yeah, yeah. It's just not something, there are things in life that you like to do, but I love this. I love to do this.
What makes you
And
love it so much?
I think with you never know what you're going to find. And I think I'm to a point now where I get really excited when I do actually find something because everything that I seem to come across now, I already know it. And so,
Mm.
when I dig, dig, and dig, and I finally come across something, sometimes it's just like a puzzle. You know, with puzzles, you have that one piece and you just can't find where it fits in at. And you can either give up and say forget about it, or you can keep trying to find where that piece of that puzzle fits in. And that's what I do with genealogy. I don't give up. If I can't figure it out, I just keep on going until I hopefully will find the solution, should I say. Not a problem, but the
It's a
solution. Yeah.
it's a solution and it's a puzzle piece. So I do want to talk
Right.
about a puzzle
Right.
piece because
Hmm.
when we talked last week, you mentioned a missing puzzle piece in my relation to you. So
Hmm.
I have two
Yeah.
questions.
Yes.
How did you discover that I'm related to you? Like, what is
Okay.
all that about? And
Okay.
then number
Okay.
two, you said there's a hole in the family tree, like where the Jacksons fell off or something.
Right.
So can
Right.
you discuss all of that?
I can't, I can definitely discuss it, and I'll tell you where I can't figure out where that hole, as you call it, I can't figure out where that is, but yes, I will go into detail about that. And I think what happened was there was a lady, which was, let's see, it would have to be great, let's see, your great grandmother. And she would have to be my great grandmother. And what happened was and this took me years to figure this out. I was probably into my 30s before I actually figured this part out. And she was married twice. And when she was married to her first husband, that's where I came in the picture. My family came through that line of her and her first husband. Then her first husband passed away. She remarried, and that's where your line comes in at. And so I'm not sure where the disconnect was because it's a very close relation.
Hmm.
So I'm just not, I don't know. I don't know. And a lot of people in our family today have no idea. They don't they don't even know they're related.
Why do you
Hmm.
think they don't know we're related?
That's a good question. I don't know. And certain times people say, "Oh, well, I've sometimes heard that we were related to this person or that person, but I never could put it together." Never could put it together. You hear, certain things about family rivalries and things like that. Now, I honestly don't believe that has anything to do with this situation. I just simply think that over the years, everybody kind of got separated. Now, we have cell phones. Well, you can text, you can call. We have Facebook. You can find people that you never could come in contact with. But in those days, they didn't have those things. So when you moved away, you wrote somebody, you wrote them a letter, or if you could afford to have a telephone, then you
Hmm.
would call them. So I think just over the years, the family just got kind of separated. But I don't think there's any negative aspect to that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. And this was all, and this all came to me because I went a step further. I go a step further, and I look at land records. And when you look at land records, when you leave property to someone, you generally leave it to all of your children or your grandchildren, or if you don't have any children or grandchildren, you leave them to your siblings, leave it to your siblings or your nieces and nephews. So to put all of this together, when I was putting these pieces of the puzzle together, to make sure that it all made sense, my last step was going and looking at land records. And when I pulled up these land records, that's where it all connected. And what I had always thought was true.
What did you discover
Mhm.
from the land records? Because I know people listening, they may be doing the same type of research
Yes,
with their
yes.
family.
Well, from the land records, when someone dies intestate, which means you die without a will. And so when that happens, you have to legally, everything goes to your next of kin. And your next of kin, if you have children, of course, is your children or your nieces and nephews. And what I did was I started with this lady I was telling you about. Started with her, and her husband passed away in 1904. And when he passed away, no will, but he had property. So I dug up everything I possibly could attached to this property, which was left to his children. His children, at the time this property was sold, all of his children were deceased.
Hmm.
So next in line were the grandchildren. And that's where your grandmother was listed and my great grandmother was listed as
Wow.
grandchildren. So, yes, so that all put it together. Hmm. Yes, that all put it together.
This is this is quite remarkable to me because I hear so many people these days, of course, they're consulting 23andMe,
Right,
Ancestry.com, all of this
right.
stuff.
Hmm.
What do you find the process you went through with the
Hmm.
land records and doing the research and find this, do the puzzle pieces?
Right.
What makes that a more beneficial route than just trusting what you get on like 23andMe?
Well, I'll tell you, um, 23andMe Ancestry DNA are very good because that will connect you with your biological relatives. But I will put this out there too. If you're not prepared for what you may discover, then don't do it because it is, it's DNA. So it connects you with your relatives and, who you are connected with biologically, which may not be someone that you thought. Or you may find a
Okay, you
sibling.
gotta tell me more about that.
Okay. So,
Okay.
you know, you may find a half sibling. You may find a half uncle or aunt that you never knew about. Yeah, so that's why I say, if you're not ready for it, then it's best that you not do it. Yes, because it's the real ancestry DNA and 23andMe are the real deal, like as I like to say. Hmm.
Okay, so I got another question.
Yes,
Because
yes,
of course people want to go that route if they're ready for
right,
whatever they will discover. And of
right,
course the same is true because I could be searching the land records, going here,
right.
going there,
Hmm.
talking to that people.
Hmm.
What if that person thought they were ready and they're still shocked by what they discover?
It can definitely be an eye opener. I will tell you that, and it's mentally you have to be prepared for what you may come across. You really do because you're getting into different things. You're talking about, take for instance, someone finds a half sibling, so then, you may confront your parents about it, or, if your parents are deceased, then, that's a different story. So yes, you definitely have to be mentally prepared for that. Definitely.
Okay.
Old or young.
Okay, now that you're talking about this because you've done the research, you basically have
Yes.
told me you know how everybody is related in New Kent, essentially
For
in
the
New
most
Kent
part.
County, Virginia.
For the most part.
You know the story. You could legitimately write a book on
Yes,
this.
I could. I could. Hmm. And it's all in my
I
mind.
know it is.
Yeah. Hmm.
So,
Yes.
okay, I got two questions and you can
Yes.
decide which one to tackle first. Number
Okay.
one, what kind of mind do you possess to keep all that stuff up there? And then number two, you also have to be very sacred with this
Oh
information
yes.
because you could
Yes.
be at church or you could be out and about
Hmm.
at the food line and it's like,
Hmm.
uh-oh, guess what I found in
Right.
the
Right.
history and da da da
Right.
da da. Okay, I'll
Yes.
hand it over to you.
Yes. You are correct about that. It's you have to know who you can discuss it with and who you can't. And me saying that is because everyone, like they said, you the old phrase, you can't handle the truth. Well, a lot of people can't. And people have asked me questions, and I like to tell people, I tell the truth, I don't tell fairy tales. So, sometimes, every family story, every family tree is not a fairy tale. You don't come out with rainbows and stars. is not always the story. Sometimes the story, is not what you may want to hear. So, people ask me questions all the time, and I always give them a disclosure. Said, it may not be what you want to hear, but it's the truth.
Hmm.
And yes, and I'm guessing you're wondering, have I ever had people upset with me or, anger over certain situations? Definitely. hmm But as a genealogist, you get used to that. You get used to that, and it's no big deal to me because I understand different people's situations, and certain people don't want to hear certain things, and I respect that. I respect that. But yes, it's all here, and you are correct. Sometimes I go to the store, or while I'm at church or an event or something like that. Yes, I know quite much.
How do you, okay, how, again, how do you keep it all up there?
That's a good question. I think it's because with what you love in life, you make room for it in your brain. You know, if you like cooking, you may not need a recipe book because it's all up here. So you go to the kitchen and you start mixing things or adding ingredients. You don't need a measuring cup or you don't need a cookbook because you love doing it. So it comes naturally to you. And that's how I feel that this genealogy is. It comes naturally, so I remember that. And people, say, "Oh, you remember what you want to remember." Well, there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. And I want to remember this. I want to learn about it. So therefore, when I learn it, and I think it's because I get so excited over it that I just remember it. Yes.
I want to go back to when you were like, oh, I'm 8, I'm 9.
hmm
Somebody listening to this, it could be their parents, their grandparents, or
hmm
even the child.
hmm
Do you feel there's a genealogist in every family, and does it always start that young?
It does not always start that young. I will say it doesn't. But generally, each family does have a genealogist. They may not think they're a genealogist, by name, but I think every family does have a genealogist. And maybe I take that back. Maybe not, because some families don't want a genealogist because they don't want to know, the older people know, they know the real deal. But the younger ones, a lot of younger ones don't. And so a lot of families don't have genealogists. I totally disagree with what I just said, but they don't because they don't want to know what's going on. They don't want to know the reality of things.
So would you say, because you're making me realize something I never connected the dots with, would you say the genealogy is connected with truth?
Oh, definitely. That for the most part.
Yeah,
For the
okay.
most part, it
Yeah.
is, because you have some people that do family trees and tell things, but it's not the truth.
Mm.
And that's and I think, but I can't necessarily disagree with that because I think a lot of people do that to keep the peace, should I say, to keep the peace. Because people, unfortunately, people do have half siblings and things like that. No, you don't want to necessarily be at a family reunion and pop that out of nowhere.
I can get down with that.
hmm hmm
However, there's like a caveat.
hmm
Because if I, let's say it was me, and then my
Right.
grandchildren hundreds of years later,
Right.
this has
Right.
been the official family tree
hmm
for 60 years or whatever.
Right.
Then somebody finds out that ain't the official tree because there is a half sibling.
Well,
What do we
that
do with that?
I ran into that many times. I have ran into that many times, and a good phrase, being from a small county, a phrase that you've probably heard yourself. Oh, that's a different set.
I know,
So,
I'm just making
right. So I'm sure you've heard that phrase. I've heard that phrase. Sometimes that's a phrase to brush off reality. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. Mhm.
I don't know. I guess I'm the person who wants to know. Like,
And me too. Me too. But like I said earlier, in this conversation, you just have to know who and what you can discuss certain things with. Because certain people you can't break down the whole reality of the family tree because it's not going to be accepted well. And
Hmm.
yes, I have had, I've had, but I know when to end it. If someone says there's certain clues that I get, where I know, okay, well, it's time to stop sharing the family tree or the family history at this point. Yes. Mhm.
Correct. I
Now,
mean,
I take reality with reality. It doesn't matter to me if we're related biologically, then we're related biologically. It's not not my fault. It's nobody's fault. So if we are, we are. It's simple as that.
yeah, because that's what this is all about. It's about the relationship and
Hmm.
discovering what is
Right.
this blood relationship. Because you may actually, let me tell you about something that came to me today. I don't know
Hmm.
why this came to me. Well, I know one of the reasons it did. Of course, you know the Hathaways.
Hmm.
So at New Community Church, Angela gave the message today. So I was tuning into some of it on Facebook. I watched the
Okay.
replay. But it got me to thinking about my connection with that family because, of
Hmm.
course, Randy was in my class and we were born like
Right.
5 days apart.
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
like, what was up with that? Like, why did I have a draw to that? You start questioning
Right.
stuff, and you, as a
Right.
genealogist, probably know. You could probably figure out, okay, let me find this path.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
no, like, I'm being serious. This just
Hmm.
came up today. Why is there such a draw? And I'm going to tell you, it's not just with me. When I think it was my nephew, Carell was in school. It was either Carell or Cyrus was in school with Rodney's daughter, one of
Okay.
the daughters.
Hmm.
So like it's like these connections run multi-generation where
Right.
you
Right.
might be at
Right.
school with the same sibling
Yes.
or cousin or an
Yes.
auntie
Yes.
out of the
Hmm.
same family. What
Right.
do you
Right.
make of that where you might not know there's a specific relationship,
Where there's a
but there's
relationship.
some draw to that family or person?
Well, you know, stated once again, I'm a firm believer in talking to the older generation. If you ever sense that, I think the first place to start would be to talk to an older person in your family or that person's family. Because sometimes, when you sense things, there is something there. There is something there. And unfortunately, a lot of our older generation from the county we're from, a lot of them have passed on, and so the generation now, the older generation now, our parents, that
Yeah.
are, that's the next generation now. So, and what they know, you should learn what you can from them while you can.
Hmm.
Learn what
You
you can. Hmm.
you know what I noticed in talking to just some of my immediate relatives, some of
Hmm.
them don't want to speak.
Of course. No, no, they don't. No, and I ran into that a lot, and that's where I stated earlier. I know where to tread, should I say? And if I sense that, and that gives me more reason to want to find the truth. Because if I ask a question, and now personally, you know me, I'll ask a question in a minute. I'll be at
I'm
a
with you.
yeah,
I'm the
I'll
same way.
I'll be at a church program, and after the program is over, I'm saying, hey, are you related to so and so or such and such? And that's where I start. And you have 50% of the time you have people say, oh yeah, blah blah blah, and then 50% of the time, oh no, that's another set, or you know, yeah,
Oh,
or
yeah.
something like that. But that gives me more intuition to go and research it because records don't lie. Records don't lie, and DNA doesn't lie. Let me throw
Yeah,
that in there
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
DNA doesn't lie, and records. When you find records at the courthouse, that's what it is. certain records are not public record. So those
Oh.
you can't, certain records you can't access unless you're an immediate relative, but most things, birth records and things like that, most of that you can't access, while
Hmm.
the person's alive, so. Mhm.
Okay, state that again. The records you can't access.
All right. So certain records you cannot access, like I think in the state of Virginia, I may be wrong, but I think in the state of Virginia, a death record becomes public after 25 years. So if the person was deceased within the last 25 years, you can't publicly access their record unless you're an immediate relative. And birth
Hmm.
records, and birth records, I think, are 100 years. So you can't access a birth record publicly unless it's 100 years or older, like a
Wow.
birth certificate or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't get to unless it's 100 years or older.
Okay, you making me think about a record. See, I don't know how these interviews gonna go, but this is something that always mystified me. So my grandmother, Elmira
Mhm.
Jackson
Yeah.
Pemberton,
Yes.
there's no record of her obituary. But
Okay.
let me tell you, no, let me tell you how I discovered it one day when my Uncle Kenneth died.
Hmm.
Well, no, this was before he died. We were up at his house in Ohio and I was looking through.
Okay.
He kept everything.
Okay.
He had
Okay.
pictures, antiques, that's how his
Right.
house
Right.
was. Roosters, that's
Okay.
just him.
Right.
But I found her obituary and I'm like, this is so
Oh wow.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I had never seen it. And I discovered in there that she was a member of some organization. It was like Eastern Star, but it was
Okay.
not Eastern Star.
Oh.
So I
Okay.
wrote it down and now I can't remember what it is
Hmm.
because I was like, well, let me look online to see if her obituaries, it's like
Now,
Ghost.
now, I wonder if it was one of those societies. I know a lot of African Americans had societies in those days that provided life insurance benefits and health benefits. So there were organizations that African Americans, because we had it hard in those days. So they had organizations where they would pay into sort of like insurance companies where
Hmm.
you could get medical benefits if you were out of work sick, or you could get life insurance benefits. And there were certain organizations that they would join to get those benefits. Hmm.
Wow, because I do know it was in Henrico County because it
It
listed it
wasn't
as
okay.
that. It said Henrico
Okay.
County something, 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 something. Yeah.
Okay. 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 And there were a few organizations. There was one in New Kent that had, if I remember, was called the National Ideal Benefit Society. And I think that they provided life, well, I think at that time they called them burial benefits
Hmm.
and sick. I think they were called, nowadays we call it health insurance, but I
Right.
think at the time it was called like a sick benefit. So if you became ill and you couldn't, get income, then if you paid into this certain society, your dues or whatever, then you would get a certain amount. Now I'm talking about at that time when I've seen records, $5 a month, stuff
Hmm.
like that. But at that time, $5 a month was $5 a
Yeah.
month,
True.
so you would get that certain amount for a certain amount of time if you were a member of a certain society. Hmm.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
didn't. I didn't know that. Of course,
Yes.
you
Yes.
a wealth of knowledge. So.
And then, and that's how some, and that's how some of them pay for their funerals at that time, because as you and I both know, funerals today aren't cheap, and I don't
No.
think in those days they were cheap. So those benefits that they had contributed to that as well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
me, I had a funeral director in my home. So, in my
Oh,
family,
oh,
you
okay.
know,
Yes,
in my
that's right. That's right. You
Purcell.
did.
So,
Yes, that's right.
we could,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
I don't think they had, well, no family this, well, that I don't know for sure. I'm just
Right.
on here speaking. Now,
Yeah.
somebody listening could tell
Right.
if that was true, because
Yeah.
that would be something to know from a historical aspect for even the family today. What
Hmm.
happens if your family member is a funeral director or a
Right,
funeral
right,
home owner. Yeah.
right, 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 right. Which, you know, and you can't, you know, a lot of at that time, you know, a lot of burials in New Kent in those days were done by Mr. Robert C. Scott, which
Mm.
now is Scott's Funeral Home in north side of Richmond. You know, but at those days, a lot of New Kent African Americans went to Mr. Scott for their burial arrangements, funerals. And I know there were quite a few others too that they use at of course, A.D. Price, um, Randolph. I think it was a Mr. Randolph in Richmond, Mr. Neblett.
Hmm.
Uh, it was quite a few of them. Quite a few of them. I've seen so many obituaries and death certificates that these names are, yeah, ingrained in my head.
Familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of
Yeah.
this, because we led to this portion of the conversation by talking about my grandmother's obituary,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that's a good place to start for somebody
Oh
that's
yes.
curious?
Oh yes, definitely. If you can find one, yes.
Hmm.
If you can find an obituary, yes, that's definitely a good place to start. Because that, you know, if the family had I want to say a few extra dollars in those days, then they would print out a long obituary, you know, with the family members and what have you. But once again, everything costs money, you know. So if you didn't have it, then you put a little few lines in the paper just to say, you know, so and so died on such and such date, funeral will be at such and such, you know, and left it at that. So those you don't have much information.
Hmm. This has
Mhm.
got me, I'm Miss Curiosity. This has got me thinking about, because of course you've done the research yourself.
Right,
How much
right.
history do the churches hold?
Some of them have hardly any. And I will say it's very difficult for me to get church history.
Okay,
It is,
why?
and I'm going to say why. And honestly, I think it's because it's some of the people are hard to deal with. It's some of the people are hard to deal with. It's very hard for me to get church histories. I have quite a few, but it's yeah, and I think it's a privacy thing because you know there are records, and I guess certain churches just don't want to share them. So that's not an easy route for me in my journey.
Hmm,
It's not.
because just from experience of growing up in Lebanon Baptist Church, every year they would read the church history. And I
Oh yeah,
remember distinctly this happened then,
yes,
18
yes,
so and so, 1902,
right.
1950 something. This started. This choir began in the
Hmm.
1969.
And
And I'm sitting over.
I actually have that history. I have Lebanon's history. I did contact them, and I did get a history from them.
Oh, good. Good.
And it's two. It was another church around there that I'm trying to find information on that now. It was called Tabernacle, and I'm not sure when they went, but that church was up, and I think it's a cemetery somewhere in that neighborhood called Tabernacle, and I believe that's
Are
where
you
the church
talking
was.
about the same church you mentioned? Was that New Branch? What was the
No,
other?
that was New Branch. New
Oh,
Branch
so
was the
there's two?
one. There's two. Tabernacle was. I'm not sure. You may want to ask your mother, but I know there's a cemetery somewhere in that neck of the woods that's called Tabernacle. The neighborhood people call it Tabernacle, and I believe that's where the church was. It's somewhere down there because
Yeah.
I said I was somebody was going to show me where it was one day. I just haven't been down there yet, but it's somewhere.
This is okay. Tell me, based on what you know, because you just mentioned two churches, because this is not just true in New Kent. This is all across the
Oh
country,
yes.
wherever people
Oh
are.
yes. Hmm.
What do people need to do now to get this history written? So they got a version of Tabernacle in their county,
Hmm.
town, or whatever. How can we get this so
Okay.
it's not forgotten?
So it's not forgotten. And I will say for me, I'm guilty of this as well. People such as myself that know these things need to put it on paper and record it because, once that's gone, it's gone. Once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, New Branch, like I said, a few people now know about that church, but not everyone. Like yourself, you said you had never heard of it,
Mm-mm,
but it
but you
was a.
said my mom and my cousin Barbara know about it.
And they told me stories about when they were little children that they would go there for homecoming or church anniversary or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, they remember it. They remember it well. I want to say your cousin Barbara told me her father was something. I don't know whether he was a clerk or something at the
hmm.
church at one point.
I mean, that sounds about right because he was a businessman.
Yes, yes,
So
right,
he had
right,
the Washington store and all
right,
the other stuff
hmm
that he did. So,
right. And your great grandfather, Albert Jackson, he's buried at New Branch.
oh,
Yes, yes, he's buried at
hmm,
New Branch. Yeah, he actually, there's a stone down there.
I need to go see that.
Next time you're in Virginia, you have to let me know. We can ride down there. But it's like I say, I think it's on private property, so I don't think we can necessarily go back there without permission. But I know exactly where it is.
Hmm.
Hmm And I just can't. I cannot figure out. I don't know whether Lucy, his wife, is buried there or not. I'm pretty sure she probably is, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Hmm But yes, that's where the Jacksons went.
So what happens, because I'm even reflecting back to something I did earlier this month. I went to Sumter, South Carolina with
Hmm
my boyfriend to visit the grave of his grandmother and his mother.
Okay.
So of course we do that every year. We
hmm
put the flowers, we commemorate. What do you feel like with these kind of hidden grave sites, or is it because people die off and nobody is visiting them regularly? What
Yes.
happens?
Yes, that's what it is. And this cemetery that I was, telling you about, New Branch, I can guarantee that's what happened over a period of years. They just stopped taking care of it. It's grown up. If you ride past there and you don't know about it, you would have no idea that it's over there. It's grown up terribly. It's wooded now. It's wooded. Hmm
Hmm.
Yes. So that's what it is. Over a period of years, it's just been no one's taking care of it, and it's just grown up. And like I say, if people like me, it's up to people like me to try to, get it back to where it needs to be. But I really need to put the New Branch history on paper, so people will
You
know
need
about
to put all of this on paper. I see you writing a book that's like this thick.
it.
No, I'm being serious, and
Mhm.
I will assist. I love doing that
Yes,
type of stuff. Like that's
yes,
why I'm doing this. I
right,
do
right.
this news show
hmm
to mark these things in history. And I can tell you, 5 years, I mentioned this to you. 5 years ago, we had a family reunion, and it was my
hmm
idea to do the legacy interviews. Oh my
Yes,
goodness, you
yes,
should have
yes.
seen some of them. I don't have nothing to say. I don't, oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
gosh, why you
Right,
want to interview? But let me tell
right,
you, they enjoyed it after they did it.
right. And I really regret, I will say, I regret not talking to your Aunt Josephine, your Aunt Anna, and Delphia and Pauline because I know for a fact they could have enlightened me on quite much at their ages when they were alive. And if I would have known like I know now, I would have taken that time to talk to them and ask them questions and things like that. Because I know they would have,
Yeah, they would have
hmm
given you. But you know what? Because you just said that, they left an imprint on people like me. You can
Yes,
find out
yes.
about, granted, I can't give you what Aunt Josephine had completely.
Right, right,
I can't give you
right,
what Aunt Pauline had or none of them.
right.
But I can give you some stories you don't know.
Yes,
You
yes,
feel
yes.
me? Because I
Right,
can,
right,
just right now, stuff is coming to me.
right, right.
I I don't know if you knew this. Like at the age of 10, Aunt Delphi is the one who taught me how to sew.
Oh, okay.
So I would
Okay.
go over there during the summers, sew with her. We would watch Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful,
Yeah.
eat lunch. They always
Yeah.
had coconut cookies in a jar.
Oh, okay.
See what
Okay.
I mean? So
Wow. Yes.
you, it's
Yes.
not, and I'm making this point not just for you, I'm making this point for the audience because
Right.
sometimes we think because that loved one is gone, we can't hear the
Hmm.
stories. But no,
Right.
there's a niece, there's a grandson, there's a
Right.
son, there's a daughter, there's
Right.
a friend who knows a lot of their story.
Yes. 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 That's
And
true.
I know this for each one of them because I
Right.
spent enough time over there.
I know. I'm sure you did.
So
I'm sure.
I know
Right.
the, I know this, I just know.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
know
And
a
that's good.
lot of stuff.
And that sticks with you today, up until today. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, sticks up with you till today. Yes. And I would tell you, your cousin Jonathan and I were in school together. Of course, we were good friends.
Hmm.
And when we first became friends, we had no idea we were related. We had no idea.
You see what
Had
I'm
no
talking
idea.
about with that
Mhm.
connection? Y'all were
Right.
drawn to each other for a reason, even though
Exactly.
y'all was in a totally different county.
Exactly.
You
Right.
feel
Right.
me?
Right. Right. And see, and getting back to what we discussed earlier, you know, like you and him are first cousins. All right. Now, your grandmother, Elmira, and my great grandmother, Gracie, were second cousins.
Yeah. Oh,
Now, how didn't we know about,
yeah, that's crazy.
that's a very close relationship. Very close. But I had no idea.
Me
No idea.
either.
No idea. But when I pulled up those land records, it was all in there. All in there. Hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
And see, on another front, people need to be doing this because y'all don't want to be dating somebody that's your
That's
cousin.
and
I
when you're
mean,
from
I'm
a
being
well,
serious.
that's the truth. When you're from a county like that, I mean, it's kind of hard not to stumble across those grounds, should I say,
Hmm.
But once again, back in the days before our generation, that wasn't a big deal.
True. Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. When I was younger, I was like, what in the world? But as I get older now, it's so common. It's not even it's no shock to me anymore. It
Hmm.
was so common, and I don't know whether they viewed it differently than our generation, but it was no issue at then.
I think one of the reasons it wasn't an issue was who's in my vicinity, who's in
Right.
proximity.
That's true.
Whereas
And that's what.
us, we might have a car and you can go 20
Right.
miles, 30 miles,
Right.
50 miles down the
Hmm.
road.
Right.
There was
Right.
not that same type of
Right.
access.
Right. Right. And it wasn't as like now, we can hop in our car and go to work in Richmond, you know, from New Kent, but at that time when you went to work in Richmond, you stayed there for a week
True.
because you
Yeah.
rode a horse or you took the train, and you stayed up there for a week with a family that would allow you to stay with them. Then you came home for the weekend.
Mm.
Yeah, that's how that worked.
I got
The
another
man would.
question
Mhm.
in relation to that.
Okay.
Because part of understanding the family tree and the family history is understanding how those times were. We can't view it
Hmm.
from the lens of 2026 and
You
say,
cannot.
"Oh, you should have known this or you should
Right.
have did this."
Right.
And I hear a
Right.
lot of people saying that, but it's
Hmm.
not.
It's not the same.
We got to put ourselves. How did you come to a place to be able to put yourself in the shoes of people
I
who came
think
before?
I think listening to a person that had experienced it. You can go to the library, you can go to Barnes and Noble or wherever, and you can read a book. But when you actually sit down with someone that has been through the Depression or that has been through World War II, the Vietnam War, you know, any of those wars, what times were like, if you actually hear someone talk about that, it makes you think very differently about it. Makes you think very differently about it. Like now, if a little child gets, let's just say, a cookie from their grandmother, It's almost expected. You go to your grandma's house, you get cookies, candy, cakes, or whatever. But in those days, it was a little different. Every family couldn't afford candy. Every family couldn't afford to make a cookie, because they could barely afford, some of them could barely afford to buy flour. So, nowadays you run the food line, you get a bag of flour, you're good to go. But in those days, it was totally different. It was totally different. Maybe this growing season on the farm had a drought, so you didn't have food to can or something like that for the winter. You can't feed your animals. So it's different when you hear that from someone that has actually experienced it. Really, it's really different. Hmm.
Yeah, how do you think based on that? Because you're bringing up some memories from my childhood, like
Hmm.
growing up with my grandmother. I remember we had powdered milk.
Wow.
No, I'm not
Wow.
saying we had that all the time, but that was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
in the house.
Something in the house. Okay, okay, yes. But see, it makes you think, it makes you realize and think differently than reading that in a book. See, I'm hearing you say it, but you think about it differently because you actually experienced it.
We had powdered milk, Tang, government cheese.
Oh wow.
And the
Okay.
reason I know, I didn't know at the time, I'm like, this is just
Right.
cheese. But we
Right.
had a cheese slicer, Derek. You know the cheese slicer with the little thin thing? And you had to cut the cheese. You ain't
Oh
never
no,
seen a cheese
I've never
slicer?
seen one of
You
those.
seen one?
I haven't. I've only bought the cheese already sliced.
No, I'm telling you. Growing up, and this is the 80s. We had a block of cheese,
Hmm.
and it was a cheese slicer.
Oh
It was,
wow.
and you had to
And you had to
slice.
slice the block.
Yes.
Okay, you're telling me something.
But
No.
but you see how me having a direct
Hmm.
experience with that,
Right.
even hearing another person tell that story, I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Because we had
Right.
cherry trees, a grapevine,
Hmm. Hmm.
apple trees,
Hmm.
peach tree, gladiolas,
Right.
sunflowers. Like I can
Right.
name all of the stuff we could go outside and pick. Of course, wild blackberries.
Yeah. 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 And just to add to that, someone was just telling me the other day that when they were a child, how they could, when their mother would cook breakfast, they could only get one slice of bacon.
You know, you
Yeah.
ain't you ain't for that, Derek.
Mm-mm. And now give me a whole pound. But
Right?
yeah,
It's like,
now it's just you think differently because now you go to the store, buy your bacon, get as much as you want. It's no big deal. But in those days, you had to spare what you could get. When you got one piece of bacon, she said they got one piece of bacon every morning, and that's all they could get. Hmm.
but that puts everything into perspective and it makes you really have
Respect.
gratitude.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it does. And I have a lot of respect now, and I'm drawn to older people, because I just want to know. I like hearing their stories. I love hearing their stories. Love it. And to this day, as I stated earlier, if I go to a church program or something, after the service is over, I'm still hanging around another 30 minutes talking to people. That's just how I am. And well,
I know, I know,
yeah,
I know that's
yeah.
how.
And to put it in perspective for to step on in your territory, how many times have I been to Lebanon and after service was over there, I sit and talk to Miss Edith Macon or Miss Catherine
Yeah,
Macon,
yeah,
just sitting there talking to them after the service, it's just
right.
interesting. Yeah. Hmm. Just talking to them. Definitely.
That makes me want to sing because Catherine Macon, this little light of mine.
Right.
That's her
Right. Yeah.
favorite song.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's stuff, little history bits like that you can't read in a book.
You can't.
You had to experience it because
You
every
have
time I
to.
hear that
Right.
song, I think of her.
You
Just
think
like
of her.
June
Right.
Macon, he had a song too called Blessed Be the Tie.
Okay. Okay.
Blessed be the tie that
And see,
binds our hearts in
Christian love.
Christian love.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm. And see, like the senior choir there, like a normal, I never was a member of Lebanon, but see, I can remember quite much still about that church because I was interested. It's in my mind, because that was interested me. And like all those people that was on the senior choir, I remember going to a program and I can name the six women that were singing that senior choir that day.
Name them. Name them right now.
So you had Miss Catherine Macon, you had Miss Norma Turner, who's still alive, of course. What's her sister-in-law, Miss Sadie Wells,
Yeah.
and then Mrs. Turner, Mr. Arthur Turner's sister. Um, what was her name? She was married to your uncle.
You got
Uh,
me.
she was married to your uncle Logan.
Oh, Helen.
Helen, yes, Miss
Yeah.
Helen Pemberton, and Miss Lily Burrell was playing the piano. And now
Gay. Gay
I just, told-
Meekins.
I just, yes, and your aunt Gay, that was five. I said six, so it was five. I can remember. Yes, and I can remember just as clear as day, like it was this morning. The five of them when I was at that program marching down that aisle. I can remember it.
What did they wear?
They had on all of them had white on.
Wow.
Hmm. Yes, and I remember, and the men that were singing with the choir was Mr. Arthur Turner, Mr. Miller, what was his first name?
Floyd.
Floyd Miller. Um, who else was it? I believe the other one was a Wells, uh, Miss Sadie Wells' son.
H. CJ?
It
C.
could have been.
What's his name? It's C. It's I like
Was
his
it Art?
name is
No,
escaping me.
me too. But then it was Thompson. Uh, Mr. Thompson was singing. I
You
want to
mean
say it was
Leon or
not Leon. Oh, good. Was it Emmett?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
That he another
Yeah.
one.
And it's somebody else, but I can't remember the other person. But yes, I remember all of that. And see, someone my age, when I get old, I can tell the younger generation about Lebanon Senior Choir because the younger generation, like my children and grandchildren, and if I have grandchildren or great grandchildren, they're not going to know those people at
Mm.
all, at all. Mm-mm. And what at that time, now all those people are gone, I believe, other than Miss Turner and Mr. Miller.
Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So all those other people are gone. So, but I remember them, and that just tells you because I really didn't have a connection to Lebanon. I wasn't a member there, but just me being interested in that older generation and history, that's why I can remember all that. Hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be the last thing I ask you because you just mentioned
Okay.
it. Your children and soon to be grandchildren. What is it you're teaching them? Your children.
Well, I try to teach them who they're related to. I try to tell you this. If we see someone, I say, "Oh, this is your cousin," or, and I try to explain to them how we're related to them. Whether it be, some people say, "Oh, they're down the line," But to me, I can, if it's down the line, fifth and sixth, I can still tell you we're fifth cousins.
Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
What does your wife think about this? Did she
She,
like, here go
she,
Derek again?
she's like, "Wow, how in the world can you remember all this? How can you keep this all?" Just say like the same question you asked me. How can I keep this all in my mind? Hmm. And I will say to anyone that looks at this, you know, pictures are another hard thing to come by. A lot of people don't want to share those as well.
Really?
Yes, really. Hmm. Yeah. I don't know why, but a lot of people don't want to share pictures.
Is it from a certain time period that they don't wish to share or?
Not necessarily. I honestly think some people just don't feel like going in the attic or
Oh,
wherever they may be, just to search and find them. But that's very hard for me to obtain pictures.
okay. I said that was going to be last thing, but I do need to ask this because
Okay.
it's it's relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
Because you just said something about some people not wanting to access the pictures. And this is something I've noticed in the work
Hmm.
that I do. I'm a deaf doula, all this stuff. So I deal with people
Okay, okay.
at the end of life sometimes, or
Oh
they
wow,
may
okay.
have come to me for a massage because somebody died.
Yes,
What I've
yes.
noticed is people will wait till somebody died to access the picture, to
Oh yes.
access the story, to
Yes, yes.
why do we wait, or how can we prevent ourselves from waiting?
That's a question that I've been trying to, Elmira, I've been trying to answer that question for years because you don't know a lot, as you stated, until a person is deceased. I that question I can't honestly can't answer because I've been trying to figure that out myself.
I can tell you what I've seen because I had to fix it within myself.
Hmm.
What I started to notice is people did, and this goes back to something you mentioned earlier. People are not being honest with themselves.
Oh, that's where
So
it
if I'm
starts.
not being
Yeah,
honest with myself, I'm not going to share this picture, or I'm
right,
not going to
right,
want to find out who's my dad's real half sibling.
right,
Because I
right,
don't know me, so I'm like, let me just
right.
push it to the side. Let me just go to work,
Hmm.
raise my kids. That
Hmm.
stuff is in the past.
Right,
Nobody
right.
needs to know it. My children don't
Exactly.
need to know what's going on. I'm not
Exactly.
even connected with the family back home. Nobody needs
Right,
to know.
right,
It's
right,
like, are you
right.
serious?
Hmm. Hmm. And that's true. That's true. That's so true. You hit the nail on the head, as they say. Yes. Hmm. That's so true. But as you stated, a lot of things, pictures, whatever, has to wait till a person is deceased. I never understood it. Never understood it.
I don't want to wait. That's why I be telling people stuff, and they might be like, "You telling too much" or whatever.
Well,
But they gonna remember and say, "Oh yeah, she did say that 20 years ago." Whether you got it then or you get it when I'm dead.
but I think of certain things, like for myself, when I'm gone, some things that I know will go right in the grave with me. Some of them, I guess, because they need to go to the grave with me. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess other things, I just never had a chance to share.
True.
Because I know this is probably the third time I've gone back to New Branch, but that I really need to get on that because that was a church in the community at one point.
And I just caught it because I'm always listening and listening to God.
Hmm.
So I just caught why this is sticking out for you. The name of the church is New Branch, like a
Right.
branch on a family
Yeah.
tree.
There you go. There you go.
So
Right.
that's what we discovering each time we go to a record, each time we get a new picture, each
Right.
time I find out that's my fourth cousin, my fifth cousin, or you go to the family reunion of the
Right.
people you didn't know you was related to 2 years
Right.
ago, you're finding
Right.
a new branch.
Yes. 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 So my I would say my biggest advice to anyone: do not miss the opportunity to learn from your elderly relatives. They have so much they can teach you, regardless of whether if they don't want to discuss genealogy. There are other things that they can teach you. But like I said about life,
Yeah,
just don't miss the opportunity. They have so much knowledge to share.
I agree because that's what benefited me is
Hmm.
being around both sets of my grandparents. Well, I never knew my grandfather, Pemberton, James.
Okay. Oh,
But
you did not.
because we
Okay.
didn't move to New Kent until right after he died. That's
Oh,
why
and
we
he
moved.
okay, yes, and he died in '83. I
Yep.
remember that.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
see, like
that's
numbers
why.
like that stick out in my in my mind.
See, you
Mhm.
knew, and
Yeah.
but I know a good deal about him,
Okay.
but I never got to know him. But of course I was there with my grandmother in New Kent,
Yes.
my
Yes.
other
Right.
set of grandparents in Norfolk or in North
Okay.
Carolina. Then of
Okay.
course my aunts, we talked about them, all
Right.
the Pembertons.
Right.
I
Right.
know all the people in the community, Uncle Samuel and
Hmm.
Big Floyd and this
Right. Right.
not Floyd Miller, but this was another. I
Oh.
think
Oh.
his
Oh.
last name was Johnson.
Oh. Okay.
You
Okay.
probably know him, but he would say stuff like, "I don't know if I'm more sleepy than hungry." Like I remember this stuff from a little girl. Like that was a saying. I'm like, what
And
is he talking about?
and do you remember there was a lady in your neighborhood that lived on a farm? She lived in a house sitting off in a field name. I think her name was Miss Henrietta Jones.
Oh yeah, that's
Mhm.
I'm related to her. That's my in-law.
Oh, it is. Oh,
So
okay.
let me tell you, just so you know, do you know my aunt Bertha, Bertha Pemberton, who was married to Robert, one of
I
my
know the
mom's
name.
brothers?
I know the name. Hmm.
So that's her mom.
Oh,
Henrietta
okay. Okay.
Jones is, yeah, is Bertha. So Henrietta and Leroy.
Hmm.
So they lived in that house like directly across from the school, like the community.
Yes.
You know where
Yes.
the school is, so
Yes.
right across there. Um, but Marvin, Marsha May, and my Aunt Bertha,
Okay.
yeah, that's
Okay.
their mom.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, I loved her. Like I don't think I knew her for maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5 years of my life. I can't tell
Okay.
you the
Yeah.
exact amount of time, but yeah,
Right.
she
Right.
was a phenomenal, like
Okay.
just very nurturing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can
Hmm.
tell how she is by my aunt, because that's one of my favorite aunts. Like that Aunt
Oh, okay.
Bertha,
Okay.
who's her
Hmm.
daughter,
Hmm.
loves to sing. I'm talking, she got a
Oh,
voice. I
okay.
told her she needs to record an album, and I'm like, why have you not recorded the album yet? Because every
Oh,
time I go
wow.
to her
Okay.
house,
Wow.
we sing.
Hmm.
Me and her will sing.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
even what Christmas was that? That was Christmas 2022. We went to her home in Fredericksburg and we sung karaoke. I mean, the whole family
Oh,
was
okay.
there. Like
Right. Right.
cousins and my sister Jamaica and Wilhelmina and my nephew
Okay.
and
Right.
everybody was at the house.
Okay.
And
Okay.
but yeah, that's Henrietta Jones. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I know quite many names in that neighborhood just because I'm
Yeah.
nosy.
But you're nosy with a purpose.
Yes, right, exactly.
It's
Hmm.
like you,
Right.
and I'll tell you, and we'll end here for sure.
Okay.
You have to write the book.
Okay.
And
I'm taking
it's
that in.
easier now with these AI tools.
Oh, yes,
Because
yes.
all you got to do, if you write down your stuff and
Hmm.
transcribe, it can help you formulate everything in the
Oh, okay.
chapters and
Right.
just Terrence is the one who taught me that because he's like, yeah, you
Okay.
can because I'm a writer. Like I love
Okay.
writing stuff down. Like
Okay.
so I
Okay.
got notebooks and notes and pictures.
Hmm.
I'm the person
Right.
with the pictures. I got pictures of everything. And you know one thing I'm mad
Oh,
about,
wow.
but I believe it's gonna come back to me. When I moved from Nashville to Atlanta, because I wasn't able to keep up with my storage there, I
Hmm. Hmm.
lost all of my pictures and my video camera.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
But do you know, I
Wow.
believe God and I know this is going to come true. Somebody's going to show up on my doorstep one day like,
Hmm.
Miss, we found this. Because what are
Right.
they going to
Right.
do with it? I'm talking, Derek. I have pictures of everything in my video camera.
Hmm.
I took videos. You talking about, you remember the senior choir? I
Hmm.
had video of all of this.
Oh,
I'm talking,
wow.
a matter of fact,
Okay.
after we get off here, I'll show you a video I did find because I
Oh,
recorded it on my Instagram of us when we were in the youth choir.
okay.
So I had everything recorded. I'm talking the choirs,
Uh-huh.
VBS,
Okay.
that all went, but I still
Right.
got it up here and in here, just like you.
Right.
But I would
Right.
love to have the tangible.
I know. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Anything final you want to say to the people?
Um, I just would like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to share this, how
Yeah.
important genealogy is. And, just like I said earlier, just take it all in from your elderly relatives or elderly community members or
Hmm.
anything, just spend that time with them, and learn from them.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yes.
I agree. Well, everyone, this has been another edition of News and Views. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.